How's it going, everyone? I'm here on this wonderful Sunday morning. It is actually 12:19, so it is only 19 minutes into the day. But nevertheless, it is still Sunday morning, January 12th, 2014. And for anyone wondering why I'm putting so much emphasis on the date, it is because today is actually my 18th birthday, believe it or not. Yes, this man behind the camera is an official adult now today. And just wanted to tell all you guys thank you before I get started this video. It's been quite the journey because, believe it or not, when I made my very first video, which was just over 5 years ago, yeah, my 5-year anniversary mark just actually passed. December 23rd, 2008 was when I made my first wrestling talk video, discussion video, and it was actually a DVD review of all things, which was the Edge Decade Decadence DVD. And when I filmed that video, I was 12 years old, about to turn 13. And now here I am today, 18 years old, an adult now. So when I started on YouTube, I was just barely a teenager. Now I'm an official adult, so I've come quite far on here. I didn't really expect to ever be on here this long. I never thought I'd be 18 years old on YouTube making videos still when I first started 5 years ago. But yeah, just quite the journey, and just thank you for everyone who's ever watched my videos, now. People who've been for me from the beginning. Believe it or not, there actually are people who are still with me since the beginning, and I appreciate everyone. I appreciate everything. It's happened to me of course last 5 years on YouTube. And it's been an amazing journey, been an amazing ride, and yeah, I just want to start this video off by thanking everyone before I get started, and yeah. So enough of me blabbering about my birthday, and let's jump into what this video is about. And it is the DVD review of the history of the WWE, 50 years of sports entertainment. This DVD actually came out in, it was towards the end of November, I think, wasn't it? Sometime in November, I think it was towards the end of it. This DVD came out, and believe it or not, I got it on release day. But since I heard reports of the DVD, like I heard early reviews, and people were saying how disappointed it wasn't that good, I put it off until yesterday. So yesterday I actually watched this for the very first time, and yeah, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and review on the DVD. So let me get the camera off the stand right here. Let's get the magical magnifying glass. And yeah, history of the WWE, here's the cover. As you can see, it says history of WWE. You have a bunch of superstars on the cover. You can pretty much name every single person on here. They're pretty well known for the most part. Pretty much the biggest names you've had in this company over the last 50 years. The big 50 logo with the WWE logo right there. 50 years of sports entertainment. You go to the side, it says 50 years of, well, 50 logo right there. The history of WWE, 50 years of sports entertainment. Again, 3-disc set, serial number and whatnot. You go to the back here, you got a picture of Bruno Sammartino, you got John Cena, you got Hogan and Andre from WrestleMania 3, Triple H, and you got The Rock on here. And of course you have a little description that you gotta have on every DVD. For 1/2 century, WWE has carved a permanent niche in Americana. Sorry, why the fuck did I put Americana for? I'll never know. What started in 1963 as a regional promotion is now a global entertainment phenomenon that captivates fans in over 150 countries and 30 different languages. Today, WWE is proud to commemorate its golden anniversary with this never-before-seen documentary. Trace the journey from the smoke-filled arenas to the sold-out stadiums with the legendary superstars and legends who blazed the trail. The history of WWE, 50 years of sports entertainment, delivers all the even though I'm 18, I still can't read for shit. Indelatable, performers from Bruno Sammartino to Hulk Hogan, Bret Hitman Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, John Cena, and countless others. Get ready to experience history. It's more with over a dozen bonus matches and moments, including Bruno Sammartino's epic championship reign comes to an end in Baltimore, Maryland. Hulk Hogan slams Andre the Giant in front of over 93,000. Austin 316 is born. Generations Clad WrestleMania 18. Mr. McMahon purchased WCW, and so much more. And when you open it up, you got some nice pictures in here as well. The pictures actually look really nice. Well, you can't really tell, but it looks like actual photo paper this is on. It's pretty nice. You got Hogan right there with the title. It looks like a Rumble match. You got Austin. You got Andre. You got Bret and no, that's Shawn and Bret. Yeah, from Montreal. I thought it was Bret getting the sharpshooter for a minute. Got Lashley, Umaga, got Mysterio, Cena, Punk, The Rock, Brett again, and you have Austin and Umaga. You open it up, you got 3 discs right there. Behind disc 1, you have the original WWF Championship right there. Behind disc 2, you have a pair of wrestling boots. I'm gonna have this problem again with other DVDs. Hate this stupid thing. And behind disc 3, you have a ring bell. Yeah, a ring bell. Really? Why is it always me? I'm the only person. Am I the only person in the world that ever has these problems with the DVDs? Like, that's why I have a problem with these. It's probably broken now. I don't know. It's spinning fine, so hopefully it's fine. Of course, here's the documentary portion on disc 1. You have all the chapters. You guys can pretty much pause and read it right there if you want to read it. And more. And of course, here's disc 2, the matches and moments in disc 2. Pretty like whatever disc when you look at the matches. Honestly, nothing really special on here. I understand why they put these things on here, like Kokobi Warrior vs. Yokozuna is the first ever Raw match. It's like, I understand why they put the things on here, but it's like, it's not really that good. You have disc 3, of course, which is a more fun disc, definitely, between the two, because it's more of like the stuff from the past couple, well, not a couple years, but, you know, the more stuff people enjoy more. It's more easier to watch, I'd say, than disc 1. But yeah, the matches and moments, they could have done way better, but it's understandable why they chose. But the history of WWE, let me just scoot this over here and get the thingy back over here. Let's scoot back a little bit. Sorry, camera troubles. I don't know if I'll be able to get the full view of the DVD set, but I will try. Not currently doing a too good job of that, and yeah, well, that'll have to do. But the DVD documentary, like I said, going to it, I was, I heard about how disappointing it was, so that's why it took me so long to watch it, because I was really looking forward to this DVD when it was first announced. But when I was hearing how disappointing the documentary was, I didn't want to watch it because I didn't want to be disappointed. So I put it off, and I finally watched it. I gotta say, overall, this was actually a really good documentary. Could have been better? Yeah, there were some things they left out, and there were a few things they could have touched on better. But I'd still say it was a solid documentary. I thought it was really good for what it was. I did learn some things I did not know about, mainly like the early 60s and 70s stuff I didn't know too much about. But the first hour was really good. I really enjoyed it for the most part, even though it was all the old stuff and probably stuff you'd think would be boring. But honestly, I found it somewhat fascinating. And the last hour, especially I'd say the last half hour, 45 minutes, you can definitely tell they're just trying to fill time up, because the stuff they were talking about really honestly didn't really matter in the long run. But the documentary starts off talking about Jess McMahon, who was Vince McMahon Sr.'s father, who was a boxing promoter, and then talking about Vince McMahon Sr., how he became a wrestling promoter. I forgot what the company was called. It was like a regional company, and he stayed in the territory. I forgot what area it was. But in '63 he became the WWF, and he wanted Nature Boy Buddy Rogers to be like he's the #1 guy, but due to health issues he couldn't, and that's where Bruno Sammartino came in. Bruno Sammartino basically came in and revolutionized wrestling. He really is what made it known. He pretty much revolutionized it. He got wrestling on tons of magazines. It was all over the place. He sold out Madison Square Garden multiple 100 times, by the way, not just multiple times. And he really took it up to a whole new notch. And guys like Bob Backlund, superstar Billy Graham, some talents were coming in the '70s and whatnot and making names for themselves. And that's where they had the long, lengthy title reigns. That Bruno Sammartino held the title twice, and a combined reign of over 11 years, and Backlund had it for over, I think, 2 years. So they're talking about some of the old stuff, how the titles were, or the title meant something, and whatnot. And he talked about how Vince McMahon took over, Vince McMahon Jr., I should say. He bought the company from his father. I think it was 82, 83, maybe 81, early 80s. He bought it, and he remembers seeing Hogan in Rocky III, and just thinking to himself, okay, that's gonna be our guy. Got Hogan, and then of course everyone knows Hogan revolutionized wrestling by making it a global phenomenon. Hogan's what really made wrestling what it is today. He really put it on the map. He really made it as big as it is right now. And he got Hogan. Hogan was on like MTV. He was on everything. He was on magazine covers. He was on TV shows. How the WWF had its own cartoon show on Saturday mornings. The merchandise, like everything was basically, WWF was basically like what basketball and football is today. Like everyone watched it. Everyone knew what it was. Everyone bought the stuff. It was such a huge thing. And they talked about how WrestleMania, the first one, was either make it or break it situation. How Vince gambled huge with WrestleMania, the first one, because people didn't think it would be a huge success. People thought if WrestleMania 1 didn't succeed, then basically the WWF was basically done. Like it was not gonna, because he gambled with his money and everything. He took a huge risk with WrestleMania 1, and everyone thought if it failed, it would have been the end of the WWF. But it wasn't. It ended up being a huge success, huge phenomenon, and it is what it is today. WrestleMania is the biggest pay-per-view of the year, and all because Vince McMahon. He took a huge risk one day, and it definitely paid off in the long run. And they talked about how Saturday Night's Main Event became another huge phenomenon because WrestleMania. They saw how big WrestleMania was, and NBC wanted to do a Saturday night thing to once a month replace Saturday Night Live, and Saturday Night's Main Event was such a huge success it actually beat Saturday Night Live in the ratings for like 5 years. I think it was 8. It was a #1 thing. It was a huge success, huge hit, almost as big as WrestleMania. I mean, it was very huge. And then they went on to talk about WrestleMania 3, how when Vince McMahon pitched the idea of it being in the Pontiac Silverdome, they were discussing, okay, like, how many people do you want to fit? Like 20,000, 40,000. They can tarp off, half the stadium and, and whatnot. And Vince said, no, we're going all the way. We're selling this whole thing out. And no one thought it would happen, but believe it or not, it happened. Vince McMahon sold out the Pontiac Silverdome with over 93,000 people. Hogan and Andre in the main event, which was a huge match because Andre was undefeated for 15 years. Finally won the title shot, and Hogan was, of course, the #1 guy. So it was a match that everyone wanted to see. Either you're watching it at home pay-per-view or at the show itself. It was a huge thing. The show itself was a huge thing, and it was a huge success. WrestleMania 3, arguably the biggest WrestleMania of all time, just a huge success. And they talked about how that was actually the point where everything expanded. Survivor Series became the Fall Classic, Rumble became the January event, In Your House pay-per-views were getting born. Like WrestleMania 3 is what really kicked off the pay-per-views. So that was a really big thing for them right there. And they actually touched on the steroid trial with Vince, how they were scared that if Vince would have gotten convicted, he would have been in jail, and who would have ran the company. And it was a huge issue at the time, and how Vince had to set down like Shane and Steph when they were kids and basically tell them, like, this is what you're going to hear, but here's the truth. It actually, it was a really nice chapter there. Well, not really nice chapter, but it was a nice touch-up on the documentary itself, because that's something they don't talk about too often. So the fact that they talked about the steroid trial on here was really cool. And of course, you had a bunch of wrestlers like Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, Jake Roberts. You had quite a few wrestlers, even admit on there that they used steroids. So that was kind of like, I wouldn't say ballsy, but it's kind of like interesting to at least hear them admit it on a documentary that they've used steroids, whether they admitted it in the past or not. But that was just cool seeing it on a WWE production at least. And then they talked about how the steroid trial actually was one of the things around that time. That's when guys like Hogan and whatnot were leaving the company for WCW. So Hogan was losing a lot of people. He couldn't pay his wrestlers, so people were leaving. So Hogan was not only, getting bad publicity, but he was losing his guys too. So at that point, that's where guys like The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Diesel, Razor Ramon, they all started becoming big names. They started making names for themselves and becoming, sorry, that was my phone if you heard that. They started becoming, these superstars, these, names that everyone knew of and watched, which transpired into Monday Night Raw, because with these new guys, you're trying to give exposure. You got to give them exposure somehow. What better way to do it than on national television on Raw? And they started off at the Manhattan Center. Actually, 21 20 years ago, 21 years ago, sorry, yesterday actually, it was the anniversary of Monday Night Raw's birth, and how, Raw became a global phenomenon, how it was live one week and taped the next week, like every other week it was live, and it talked about how a huge success Raw became, and then they started talking about the Monday Night War, how Nitro came around a few years after Raw happened, and how basically Nitro was destroying them in the war because, guys like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash went there. People were leaving the WWF for WCW just because of the big paydays that, Ted Turner was promising these guys, and everyone was going there, that's why Raw was getting killed in the ratings for, 2 years in a row, or whatever it was. It was insane. Like, that was, the WWE didn't know, that was basically like WWE trying to step up their game was at that point, because they were losing all their guys, so they had to make new guys, like I said, Shawn Michaels and whatnot, and speaking of Shawn Michaels, it led into the Montreal Screwjob, talking about how Bret Hart became, the guy, basically, after Hogan left, and Bret was offered the contract for WCW, and Bret told Vince to match his contract, and Vince just told him, we can't do it, because, well, actually, no, yeah, that happened. I was thinking of the Kevin Nash part. Kevin Nash is the same thing. But Vince didn't want Bret. Like, he didn't want Bret, but he didn't want WCW having Bret either. So, pretty much, Vince was screwed at that point. And, Bret was champion, of course, and they didn't know how to take the title off him. Vince proposed, 20 different ideas to Bret about taking the title off him. Bret declined every single one. And, of course, we got to the Montreal Screwjob. Didn't really touch up that much on it. Bret didn't talk about that much. They basically just showed, the screw job and, Vince saying Bret screwed Bret. They didn't really touch up that much as you would think they would on that chapter, so that was kind of disappointing. But it was nice to hear about the screw job, even though we've heard it a million times already. Which, after the Montreal Screwjob, was pretty much the birth of the Attitude Era, because this is where WWE was transitioning from, the Hogan era, from eat your vitamins and whatnot, to, you know what, we gotta step our games up, we gotta target adults and not, families, and that's where the Attitude Era was born, because they didn't make guys, they went over the top, the whole, with the Divas were completely different than they are today, DX doing what they do, and, kids at school, we doing the DX sorry about that, crotch chop, and how it was just, it was, just going over the top. It was basically transitioning, not fake, but, storylines, you can tell the storylines to, almost reality stuff, and it was a huge transition, and that's what one of the Monday Night War was, because of the Attitude Era, because they're going over the top, because they started doing different things. They brought the McMahon character to life, just because they're doing, out-of-the-box things, different, ordinary things that you wouldn't see. That's what really got them going. That's what really got them the win. And they talked about, of course, the tragic incident in Kansas City, 99, Over the Edge, where Owen Hart died. That was actually a really, really sad chapter. They didn't touch on it that long. It's no more than 5 minutes. But it was just really tragic to hear him talk about it, especially guys like The Undertaker, and hearing how devastated Vince was and whatnot. It was honestly, it almost brought a tear to my eye watching that chapter. It was very, very saddening. So I'm not gonna touch that much on there about that. And then they talk about the launch of SmackDown, how SmackDown became, it's debuted in August '99, which was another way for new talent that was just coming in, guys like Chris Jericho and whatnot, to expose themselves even more. So SmackDown was even, another way to expose their talent, which is what they needed for other guys to get over. Talked about expanding how they, got the WWF in Times Square, and how they made books and become #1 sellers. It's basically how they became a huge known company in the late '90s, early 2000s. Being on MTV and whatnot, just basically being what they were when Bruno Sammartino was around. They just became as big as they were again. And they talked about the brand expansion when that was a bigger way for guys who weren't as over to get over, because since you have the roster divided, that would give the guys a bigger chance to make a name for themselves. Cause it's alright, if Stone Cold's on Raw and I'm on SmackDown, it gives me a bigger chance to make a name for myself, because I don't got to deal with competition like Stone Cold because he's on the other show, And John Cena even said it, like, if it wasn't for SmackDown, which I don't believe this, but he said if it wasn't for SmackDown, he probably wouldn't have been called up to the main roster, and he wouldn't be where he's at today, which I don't believe at all. But it is what it is. And then, of course, talking about how WrestleMania expanded the stadiums basically after 17, even though, yeah, because 17, 18, 19 were in the, actually, no, 17 and 19, or no, 17, 18 were in a stadium, 19 was at a field, 20 was an arena, 21 was an arena, so they said basically after 21 everything was in a stadium, but they didn't start going to stadiums every year until 23. But yeah, they basically talked about how WrestleMania and WWE just became so big that they had to expand the stadiums every year for WrestleMania instead of arenas. And, talked about the Hall of Fame, how, when Andre died, that's pretty much what started the Hall of Fame, was when Andre died and he's the first inductee. And they talked about WWE Studios. So then, this part of the documentary, like I said, is where just, you can tell they're trying to fill time in. Securing the future. They're talking about how they transformed to HD and whatnot, and how WWE keeps up, modern day technology. Just fill up time, like I said, and 50 years is the last chapter, basically just, going over WWE's, accomplished the last 50 years, and whatnot. But yeah, just a really good documentary. Like I said, the first hour really good. The last hour, especially the last half hour, just you can definitely tell they're just trying to fill up time. They're just talking about random stuff that honestly didn't even matter. But DVD gets 2 thumbs up in the long run. Definitely pick it up if you haven't. And yeah, that's my DVD review for History of the WWE. And yeah, I should get some sleep. Well, this video will probably be up like during the day, so I mean, I was kind of pointless me saying that, but I should get some sleep anyways right now because got a big day ahead of myself. Because I'm 18, I'm an adult now, so I'm gonna go do some stupid shit like go to a strip club. So yeah, later guys.